Hello and welcome. My name is Lino Tadros, and in this video, I would like to demonstrate the use of the Progress Sitefinity MCP servers that help developers create widgets and modules and other code in Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code to save them so much time and effort as well. It actually works extremely well. So let me go ahead and get started, and we'll show you how that works. So first of all, I chose an instance in here in Sitefinity Cloud. Of course, it doesn't have to be Sitefinity Cloud. It could be something running locally on your machine, or it could be something hosted in Azure or your own data center. But again, this is the CMS itself. This is not a renderer. I can create a renderer in NextJS or in ASP.NET Core, but what you're looking at right now, this is the URL for my own CMS system itself. So now I need to go ahead and create a renderer. And I would like to ask the system in Visual Studio Code for like Copilot to be able to help me generate widgets and code inside of Sitefinity itself. So in this video, I'm going to go ahead and do it with Next.js, but I'll create another video also for the ASP.NET Core later on as well. So let's go ahead and get started. There we are in Visual Studio Code. You can download a sample Next.js project from GitHub, or you can watch one of my videos how to create a render in Next.js or in ASP.NET Core, just to find out how to use the CLI to generate one. This is a generated one that has the minimum amount of code. There is nothing special about it at all. And it, of course, did not use the MCP server from Sitefinity yet. So I just wanted to show you how to do these steps one by one. So we'll start with the MCP servers, how to include it. So the way to do that, we will do on the keyboard Control-Shift-P, and that will open up the extensions in here and look for something called MCP add server. For me, I just used it so it's all the way at the top, but you can take a look in here and look for MCP: add server. So we click on that, and then you will be asked if you would like to do a standard IO, which would be hosted locally on your machine, or would like to use the streamable HTTP protocol in here as well for the transport. The SSE, which is the server sent events, have been deprecated, so really you need to choose between standard IO and streamable HTTP. So I'm going to use the HTTP because this is how Progress Sitefinity MCP server was implemented as. So I'm going to click on that. And this is the most important one, is to include here or paste the URL for where the Next.js widgets MCP is being hosted. So I'm going to bring it in. It's https mcp.sitefinity.cloud Next.js-widget/MCP. This is the location for it, and we'll go ahead and push enter. The last step is to give it a name, so it shows up in your servers for the MCP servers for Visual Studio Code or Claude or anything you want. So this could be anything. It could be Lino, Foo, whatever you want. So I'm going to give it a good name so I can remember what this is. We'll call it SF-MCP- and this is the one for Next.js. Sounds good? And we'll push enter right there. The last question is, would you like to do this globally so that every project in Visual Studio Code will have access to it? Or do you want to make it based on a workspace? That means it will add the mcp.json under VS Code to make it only for this specific project. I'm going to make it for the workspace. And that hopefully I will go ahead and trust it, and we will see that it will add it right here under the .vs code in the project, mcp.json, and that's the content of it right in here, okay? Let me go ahead and stop this from running for right now. And notice it has 9 tools in it, and I'll show you the tools in a second. But actually, this is not completely the full information that you'll have to have in the server for the MCP.json. We will need a header to know where to go get the API default as a web service for the CMS itself. So in my case, I'm going to go ahead and put a comma in here, and then I'm going to add a header. See, headers, and then I will have x-sitefinity-url. I'll be pointing to the CMS that I showed you in the beginning of the video in here about my CMS, where it's being hosted in Sitefinity Cloud. And don't forget to put the /API/default in here. Of course, if you have changed the default name to something else, don't forget to change it in here as well. All right. And let's see, this one closes that. We're missing one more of those. Okay, sounds good. And I will come in here. We'll do that, Control S. And now I'm in pretty good shape. This is the correct URL for where the MCP server for Sitefinity is located, and this is where my CMS web services endpoint is ready to go. So I'm going to click on Start in here, and it's ready to go. And I have 9 tools, and we will see the 9 tools here in a second as well. All right, now I can close this guy. Now I would like to bring up the Copilot. So notice at the way at the top, there is the Copilot logo. Let me open it up and say open the chat. And now I can actually start conversing with the Copilot. And I want to make sure, of course, it can see the Sitefinity MCP server. So if you click on this tools logo in here, we click on that. I'm going to collapse these. Notice there is one called SFMCP NextJS, and it has a check mark next to it, so we're good. And these are all the other MCP servers that I might have installed on my machine or whatever, but this is the important one for me that I see it is being included. The next part, of course, is that the main work will happen in the web app project. So if I open it up, I have all my sources in here. I have my components in there, all of these things. This is actually straight out of GitHub, or you can create it with the CLI. There is nothing extra that was included in here whatsoever at all. Sounds good? The next step is to choose which LLM do I want to use. So you have access, for instance, to GPT 4.1, 4.0, you have Sonnet 3.5, 3.7, and 4.0, you have Gemini 2.5, and of course you can go and add, as of the writing, GPT-5 has been released on Visual Studio Code, so you can include that as well to try it out with GPT-5 and so on. In my case in here, I'm going to use, let's say, Claude Sonnet 4, for instance, to generate the code. And from that point on, I'm actually ready to ask a good prompt that will help me create a widget for Sitefinity. So let's go for it. In reality, you can be as precise. You can have a one-page prompt if you want to, just to be very precise. In my case, I'm going to make it very short, but hopefully the system will do a pretty good job. I'm going to say generate a widget to mimic the ChatGPT user interface to allow for 2 text boxes, one for asking a question and one for receiving the response from the LLM. Include properties like LLM to use, like for instance GPT 4.1, Sonnet 4, Gemini 2.5, whatever. And the API endpoint for each to save, and also the access key for the user to authenticate against, which will, of course, will be very important. That means I'm giving it information what I want in the widget editor as well, not just the widget, how it will look like, but also the widget editor. I need a way for me to specify the access key and which LLM I want to use and so on. Again, this is a very short prompt, believe it or not, but we want to see how far will the system in Next.js will go to create that widget for me. So we'll say go for it. And let's sit back and relax and watch some magic happening in here to see how much this will save all of us a lot of time in the future. And it might not be perfect, and that's okay, but if it can save me 90–95% of the work, this is definitely worth it for me. So the first thing is it found out one of the tools, one of the 9 tools that are included, is the create a Sitefinity widget for Next.js. So it will actually take the information that I entered in the prompt and will ask me if this is something I would allow for it to run. I'm going to say yes, go for it. We'll continue that. And then it will keep going. Now let me get the widget entity creation instructions. So there is another tool for creating the entity, and I'm going to tell it, yes, please go for it. Use that to create the entities. And also keep your eye on the left side as well, because it's going to start creating some files in here. So, and also it will run the widget registration, because that's very important. Otherwise, when I run the instance, it will not know that it was registered or anything like that. So the system so far is doing a pretty good job trying to understand my project. Of course, it has some inside information about how Next.js project for Sitefinity for the renderer work. And now it's going to list directory. This is a different MCP server. It needs to actually list something to find out about all your read and write permissions for all the files and the folders on my system. So I'm going to say yes, go for it. So it will list the directory, and we will keep it. So it's not necessarily that it's only going to use the MCP server from Sitefinity. It has access to all the MCP servers available for it in Visual Studio Code as well. So now it will find out that there is a folder called widgets. Great. So if you take a look in here, there is the component, and then there is widgets in here. So I'm hoping that it will start creating a folder in here for the ChatGPT. Notice it start creating files. So there is my entity files. It has a lot of information. It will probably create some properties for us to enter the API key and the LLM chosen. See, it even have choices for GPT 4.1, Sonnet, GPT 3.5 Turbo. And of course, you can modify this after the fact to add more if you want. But out of the box, it did a pretty good job so far. And now it's gonna, after creating the entities, notice this is just the first file, but it will have to make modification to a lot of different files to get it to this point. The nice thing, of course, whenever it makes a difference or a change in a file or create a new file, you will see that reflected on the left side in here as well. So we'll let it run. I don't want to stop the video while it's doing that. It might take a few minutes, but it's important for you to see the entire experience of how this is going to be working. I think it's important. But also read the going back and forth between the MCP server and the Copilot in here to have a pretty good understanding of what's going on. All right, and now it's asking me another question regarding note that the MCP servers or malicious conversation may attempt to misuse code through tools. So this is something important for the writing of the file. It says, okay, it's good. You can go ahead and write the file. So now it's going to actually create the ChatGPT interface entity.ts, and it will write it out. And the next step is here is going to edit the file. Yes, you have to give it permissions, of course, or you can actually go set it. Says, don't keep asking me, just I'm going to allow you to use all these MCP servers, but I like to actually be asked to find out exactly what's happening. And now it will need to run a command to remove a file. Okay, let's go ahead and let it do that. So you notice there is a lot of going back and forth going on in here. So it might even make mistakes, but it will correct itself. So say yes, go ahead and do it. And you can monitor exactly what it's doing one by one, which is very interesting to see that it's okay to make mistakes, but it will tell you, hey, I made a mistake. I need to go fix this. I need to remove this. And it's doing a lot of work going back and forth. And now it's going to say, run the command get child item in here. And we'll say, yes, go for it. And it's working on it. Let me check if node modules exist and install. So it found out that I did not run npm I for installing all the package.json stuff. So it says, okay, I can't keep going. We have to install this. Okay, go for it. So it will cause a problem because I'm not in the correct folder. I should be in the web application. So it will actually cd into that folder first, and then we'll do an npm install. So it's very smart about knowing where it is and where it needs to go to be able to run these specific commands. All right, now it's going to check if the Sitefinity package is installed correctly. It says yes, please go ahead and try to do that. So it's going to actually check if the add progress is available under the node modules. We'll say go for it. Notice there are two things, the Sitefinity NextJS SDK and the Sitefinity Widget Designer SDK need to be installed. And it's going back to our entity TS. So again, it does take a few minutes, but it will save me hours if I have to do all the stuff myself, including the logic, the user interface for the views, the registration, the entities, all the stuff will be done in a few minutes for me. And maybe I can go back and tweak some things, but the majority of the work will be done. It looks like it's doing pretty well. It says good. Now let me create the client side, the chat component that will handle the interactive features. So now it's actually going to work with the view components, or actually this is Next.js. It's going to create the React component and at the same time creating the view for it as well for the user interface. And now it's going to let me create the main ChatGPT interface widget. All right. And now it's actually creating the ChatGPT interface.tsx for the TypeScript. And you can see the files that got touched or created will be open in Visual Studio Code. So I can take a look while it's doing the work. I can go back and take a look what happened in here in the TypeScript file. There'll be a lot of information in here for creating all the classes to be able to get to the properties and the API keys and the endpoints. All the stuff is done automatically. And then the client, it will create some interfaces and it will allow, see, it even knows how to go get the OpenAI completion endpoints and the Anthropic one as well. So if you want to use Gemini, maybe you can just create another case in here. So GPT-4.1, 3.5. So you don't have to do much at all. Even the completion endpoints will be included in the code whatsoever it needs to do. Notice it also went and created an CSS file to actually make it look good in the user interface as well, with colors and maybe images and logos and stuff. So now we have the chat. client, we have the entity got created, we have the interface for the user interface, and we have this index.ts. Let me see what's in there. Oh, okay, so that's an existing file that has all the current components, and it added the ChatGPT interface widgets all the way at the end as well. And we already have 7 files or 8 files so far. Alrighty, so we have the index in here, and I remember the one, oh yeah, the widget register. This is a very important file, so it knows about it. So if I click on it, notice these are all the components, or the widgets have been registered, and it came at the end and it added the GPT interface and the entity for the interface for the ChatGPT in here as well. And if I go all the way to the bottom, later on, you will see it will add some more code in here at the, oh, let me see it added in here. That is the GPT interface, and it created the editor metadata. We will need all this information as well. All right, so now I want to find out if it actually will work or not. So it's asking me for permissions to run npm run build to see if it would compile or not. Because if it doesn't compile, it will need to fix its own errors by itself. So we'll say go for it. So notice right now it's actually running the build in my terminal. And not only that, it will run lint after that to find out if there is any questions or any problems with the lint as well. So all that stuff will be done for you automatically. So we will give it here a few, hopefully a few seconds only to see if the build is correct. And if not, we will see the system trying to fix its own problems, which is really awesome. All right. As you can see in here, oh, it found errors. He expected the brackets in here after if, so it says I need to fix the ESLint errors in the chat client.tsx file. So it actually goes back and forth. So for us developers from now on, we need to write prompts and go to the beach after that. So there is always going to be something that you would like to add or make it do something different or add more specifications later on to monitor all that. But the amount of time that it will save us in the future will be unbelievable. So this is very good. All right, so it would like to run the npm build one more time. We'll say yes. And now we will see if it was able to fix its own problem for the ESLint in here. We'll give it a few seconds, and we'll come back and will let us know if the build is correct now. So there you go. The linting and the checking validity of type is the green check mark. The collecting of the page data is a green check mark. Generating settings page is 6 of 6, all green check mark. It looks like it's going to be able to build the system. It will be able to make it available. The good news is under the widgets for the components, we have a brand new folder called ChatGPT interface, and it has all the files in here. So now the system will say, I'm successfully created the widget, and now it will actually create a summary. So you can copy and paste and put that as documentation or an MD file, for instance. So it will tell you exactly what it did. So there is really a documentation. So you can review this. So you can actually put that into whatever system you use for requirements, or run it by project management and the architects of the team to find out that these steps are correct. So the widget handles authentication, error states, provides a professional ChatGPT-like experience, and we're done. So now there is 8 files, so you can open all the 8 files, take a look at the code, review it yourself, make sure it meets your expectation. And when you're happy with all of them, you can just keep or delete or undo any of them. So I'm going to accept all of them. We'll say keep, and we're all good. So now how can I make sure that this thing is working? So let's come in here. We'll say npm run dev, and we will go ahead and run it. And we will open it here in a second in our user interface for the in Chrome, for instance, and we will be able to see. So there is the localhost 5001. Let's click on that. And drums rolling. Hopefully the renderer now will work. We just want to make sure first that the main page will come up. And once that is done, we will go to /Sitefinity and start creating a brand new page that will hopefully have access to that new ChatGPT that I did not write one line of code for, and we'll see if it will work right out of the gate. All right, there is the site is working, /Sitefinity. Drums rolling. I'm going to go ahead and create a new page here in a second. All right, we'll go to pages. I'm going to click on here. We'll say create a new page. And this one will be calling it YouTube, for instance, because we're doing a YouTube video. We'll say continue. And we will use whatever template we want. We will find one for the coriander lane. Let's see. Refresh this. Oh, what did I do? I did something wrong. Blah, 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 blah. Let me go back. Okay, it was just a glitch. I had to go back and then go forward again. It's working. So that is the coriander template. We'll click on this one. All right, great. So now we have three content placeholders. I'm going to go in the middle, and here we'll say add a widget. I'm going to go ahead and add a section. And inside of this section, what I would like to do is to add, see if the widget had been created. Ah, look at that, AI and interactive. ChatGPT interface. So it created a new category, and it created registered the component itself for the widget. So I'm going to click on that, and let's see what it looks like. Widget configured required. This is excellent. So it actually knows also how to show you information to tell you that this cannot be run right away. You have to configure the ChatGPT interface. Awesome. Let's click in here, and then we click on the edit. And now look at all the stuff that got created for me. It has the widget assistant title. It has a placeholder, ask me anything. Now it actually allow me to use GPT-4.1 or 3.5 Turbo, Claude Sonnet, or custom endpoint, which is awesome. So I don't have to go back and add the code. I can just do a custom endpoint against anything I want. So I'm going to keep it as GPT 4.0, but there is a problem. See, it did not allow me to enter my API key. So that's a mistake that it did. So let me go ahead and save this first of all in here, so I don't have to do it again. I'm going to publish it so I don't have to do all that work again. And we will go back, and I'm going to close this for right now. And we'll say Control C to stop this from running. And I'm going to go complain. I'm going to say, you missed creating an API key entry in the widget editor. Please fix. All right, we'll say go for it. And let's see if the system will understand what I'm saying, and it will do a good job. So now it's looking at you're absolutely right. I need to check what happened with the API key field and the widget entity. Let me examine the current entity file and fix the missing API key. It read the entity interface. I can see the API key field is here in the entity, but it might not be showing up properly in the widget editor. Let me go ahead and fix that. It's unbelievable. It actually was able to do all that stuff. So I'm going to come in here, we'll say yes, run dev after it fixed the problem. Oh, I'm not in the correct CD web. I need to be in that folder in here. Now it's going to run it again, the issue. Okay, let's go ahead and run it. And now it's going to be a run dev. I'm not in the right one again, CD web. All right, it's asking where I am right now. Okay, next dev, experimental, blah, 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 blah. Okay, we'll do all of these things in here. It's trying to fix itself up just to find out where it is and how to actually get all the stuff working. So let's use npx, servers npx, okay. Actually, it's asked me to install things. And as a matter of fact, I don't really need it to do all that stuff. I just wanted to fix the code. So I can stop it from doing this and just do the npm run dev myself. Now that the file has been fixed, I think I can actually take it from here. So let me go ahead and say cancel this for right now. And I'm going to go back in here and let's do an npm run dev. There we go. All right, now we go back to the local host 5001. I know that I'm going to have to go to the Sitefinity backend for this. All right, excellent. And now we will wait to see the YouTube in here hopefully soon. We'll go to the pages. Yeah, there you go. I'm going to open up the YouTube again. And let's see if that API key is available for me. All right, we'll click on the widget. We'll say edit and enable clear history. No, I don't see it. It did not do a good job with that. So definitely there is a problem. So let's go ahead and see what else we have to do to fix it. All right, as you can see, I came back and says continue. And when it continued, it says, now I can see what's missing. I need to add the proper data type decorators and import the required types. So it had to go into the entity file for TypeScript, being able to use the data decorator correctly so that the API key shows up in the editor itself. So we'll give it a few seconds in here to finish all the stuff up, and we'll come back when it's done. Okay, it's done. It's asking me to run the build to see if everything will build correctly. We'll say continue. Notice I'm not in the correct folder, and I just wanted to show you the system will figure it out. I don't have to do a CD web app in here. So we'll say continue, and look what happens. It will give you an error, and then the system will say I was not able to run it, so I need to change CD into web app first and then run. I'll say yes, do that, and then everything will work correctly at this point. And we'll see if the build is working correctly. We'll give it a few seconds in here to try to build. It's doing the linting as well. There is 4 different steps it has to go through. And after that, this will be ready to go. And indeed, after 20 or 25 seconds, it finished all the steps. And now it says, excellent, the build succeeded with only warnings, no errors. Now let me create a simple README file to document how to use the ChatGPT interface widget. So not only it will create all the code, notice here under the ChatGPT interface inside of the widgets folder, it will end up creating a README.md file to explain exactly how to use that specific one. So that is the README in here. If I click on it, there is a step-by-step everything that you need to do regarding the endpoints, the access keys, the maximum response length, the custom CSS classes that need to be used. Everything will be in here. Truly amazing. It even have the endpoints for GPT-4.1 and 3.5, which is correct, and the Anthropic Claude, how to get to it as well in here in the documentation of the MD. All right, it's trying to finish up now all the work, and excellent. Let me run one last time. We'll say continue. It will do the final run to make sure that the build is correct, and we'll be ready to go. And it is done. So now the issues that are fixed, API key entry added. It will tell me exactly how it was able to fix the API key from not showing up in here, which is really excellent. I mean, again, you can copy all that stuff and put it into the bug reported in a specific system to tell the system how that was handled by Copilot, for instance, and so on. And then an architect or a senior engineer can approve the way it was done or make modification to it or try again and so on and so forth. All right, it is done. The widget is now fully functional. So we'll say keep all the files that have been changed. All right, let's go ahead and do an npm run dev one more time. And once this is done, I'm going to go ahead and visit again localhost 5001. And I want to go to the /Sitefinity in the back end. I know this video is getting a little bit longer. It's approaching half an hour. But again, I just wanted to give you the whole experience instead of just showing you the end result to find out what you have to deal with, what are small things that you have to do. But remember, I did not write any code. I just gave prompts and told it to fix this or do that or you missed that. And the system by itself was able to do all of this. Let me open up my YouTube page that I created already in the system. And let's see if this is doing any better. All right, there it is. I'm going to click on it. We'll say edit and drums rolling. AI assistant, show type indicator, clear, open, blah, 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 blah. It did not show the API key again. Okay, let me go ahead and see why it didn't do that. So what I did here, I went back and said, I still can't see a way of entering the API key in the widget editor. So the system took a few extra seconds, went to the entity and take a look around. And here the entity file looks correct. Let me check if there are any compilation errors or if the decorator are being imported correctly. Let me see. I noticed that the login status entity doesn't have the widget entity decorator, but our ChatGPT interface does. Let me check if there are any issues with the widget registration. Also, I suspect the issue might be that some of the newer decorator might not be available in the version of the SDK being used. Let me check what decorators are actually available by looking at the package.json. So it looked at all the stuff and it made some changes. And you can take a look actually in here in Visual Studio Code, the changes that it had to make to include actually the imports for these things instead of the data types required. And then it's going to say, I need to enforce actually the removal of a specific item. We'll say, go for it. And it will take another few seconds probably to remove this and continue with this logic to compile the correct data types and the required assemblies and packages for that. All right, it's going to create a new interface entity new. We'll say cd into that and run the ChatGPT. Yes, we'll do that. We will move the file on the inside. So there is a lot of surgeries that take place, and it might actually get a little bit messy after a while if you have to keep going back and forth. And that's okay. You can clean it later on. But again, the majority of the code is the important part for me to be able to resolve what the intent of the widget is supposed to do for us. All right, and now it's going to even do the npm run dev for me, so I don't even have to type that. We'll say go for it. And we are in the wrong folder again, so the system will figure it out and will move me to the web app. Again, you don't need to do that actually with the Copilot. You can just do it yourself, but we're lazy. So we'll go ahead and do that. And we will move to the web app and run the npm run dev. And we'll run it. Yep, now it's running correctly. And now I need to go to the localhost 5001, and I'm hoping this time it will work correctly without any fuss. We'll say /Sitefinity in the back end. All right, excellent. Let's open up the YouTube page that we created as well. And hopefully we will see our components still there. Asking for configuration. Oh, look at that. There is debug information here, all properties. All right. So the only thing missing is the API key, and I'm hoping this time that this will work. No, it does not want to do it. All right, I keep actually running this, and I see that it's continued to miss the API key, and then I figured it out. It actually made a small mistake, but we can fix that. Notice if I go in here, I'm expecting somewhere in the widget editor to have the API key so that I can enter it for GPT 4.1. And it's never there, even though it swears to me that it did it. So notice when I go all the way to the settings, all the way at the top of the page, it actually ended up putting the API key access on the advanced settings, not on the widget editor. And I don't want to do that. So I just need to go ahead and tell it, do not add it to the advanced settings, add it to the main widget editor. That's about it. But I don't even need to put the endpoint because actually that's built in. Unless, of course, OpenAI changes their endpoint, I can override it in here. But I'm going to go ahead and use one of my API keys for OpenAI, and we'll say save. Now, hopefully, when I go back to my component, we'll say save this guy. The user interface should actually have it. So the API key here says not set, but automatically it was able to read it. And this is the user interface that was created for me. It's pretty cool, huh? So let's go ahead and publish this, and let's see if it actually really works. So I'm going to go backwards in here, and I'm going to run the YouTube page in real time. So there is my YouTube, and let's come in here and we'll say, why is the sky blue? That is the hello world of AI, right? I will say send this guy. Failed to fetch. And I was expecting that. Why is that? Remember, whether you're using NextJS or you are using ASP.NET Core, Sitefinity is very rigid about content policy, the cores. And because I have an API against OpenAI inside of there, it's not going to allow it to go unless, of course, you go into the settings and turn off all cores, which we don't want to do. So I wanted to find out how can I fix this fail to fetch thing. So let me show you how to fix that. So I'm going to come back in here and we'll ask it another prompt and we'll say, I get an error, failed to fetch when I ask a question against GPT 4.1. Even though I know what the problem is, I want to see if actually the Copilot will be able to figure it out. So we'll say, go for it. And then now the system is actually reading this in the same history. I need to check the current state of the files and investigate the failed to fetch, blah, 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 blah. It's going to open up the entities. It's going to do all of that stuff. Now let me check the client implementation. At some point, it needs to figure out that this is a route problem, and it will need to create a route file that will actually take care of the cores for me. Let me check the development server status and all that. And we will see in here, let me check the development server, check the cores. Yeah, it's getting close. All right, we'll say go for it. All right. It's actually running the course to find out what is it allowed and not allowed to actually call from the outside. And hopefully it will figure out the fact that a route file needs to be created. Server running on the port file, the field, okay, so the cores needs to change. Let me create an API route. Okay, it got it. Once it actually says I'm going to create an API route, that means it was able to figure out why this is not working. So that is my route.ts, a new file number 15, that will actually fix this problem for me, so I don't have to have a course problem. So the shifting to the completion will happen on the inside, which will actually definitely fix the route problem. So now I need to update the response parsing, since the API route will return the raw response from the LLM providers. That is correct. And we'll give it another few seconds, hopefully, and it will need to build and run again to make sure everything is good. All right, like task kill, okay, because notice I'm running right now, so it knows that this is I'm running, so that it will kill it. That's good, very smart. All righty, and it will go ahead and run the run dev one more time. Again, it always runs it in the wrong project, but it figures it out, and it will make the CD to the web app and run it again, and we should be in good shape here in a second. All right, it was able to fix the problem. Let me go up and show you the summary. I have fixed the fail to fetch error by implementing a proper solution. The root cause, it tells you exactly what the course problem is all about. And the solution implemented, it tells you exactly that I had to create a route.ts file for TypeScript, and also updated the client code for the chat client.tsx file. Did a pretty good job to explain. And then it created all the MD documentation that you can copy and paste and put into the requirement system that you are using as well. So the widget will now properly work. Let me go ahead and accept all the changes. I will keep all of them. Okay, we're good. And now the system is running. Let me go ahead and say go to localhost 5001, and let's see this time if I can actually get a response. Finally, we'll say let's go to backend for Sitefinity. All right, and there is my YouTube page. It should have already the API key and everything because I published. So it should go straight to the user interface. Let's make sure that that is the case. Going once, going twice, ship it. All right, we're in good shape. We don't even need to publish. I just need to run it in runtime. And then we'll come back in here, we'll say, why is the sky blue? Drums rolling. Wow. Just wow. I did not write a line of code, folks. We just created this widget. It has its own CSS file using the SCSS. All the logic, again, GPT 4.1 and 3.5 Turbo and Sonnet 4.0 for Claude Anthropic. All of that stuff is implemented. I just need to put the API key in the editor, and I am done. And now I can actually chat. Of course, you can go to town. Now you can actually do RAG systems using documents and databases and whatever to make this happen. But the user interface is done, and you can change the CSS, of course, to make it look however you'd like. But everything else took place without writing one line of code. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it went a little bit long because we had to clear up some things, but I didn't want to actually do it perfect. I wanted to show you what you will have to go through and the kind of prompts that you have to ask the system to fix or to add and do these kind of things. Hopefully this was useful to you. And have a great one. And if you like the video, please like and subscribe, and let me know also what other videos you would like to see regarding MCPs, Sitefinity, AI in general. I'll be more than happy to make them. Thank you.